For millions of people around the world, just the sequence of words Final Fantasy VII Remake holds an indescribable amount of weight to it. Square Enix is well aware of this giant weight and is actively doing what they can to best market the game, while also doing all of the typical marketing efforts, bringing the game's demos to multiple gaming conventions, releasing new trailers, and even going as far as to give us short videos on their social media accounts daily. They're also doing unprecedented things. Just recently, Square Enix aired the longest commercial to ever appear on Japanese television, clocking in at a total of 7 minutes. And that's the cut version. The extended version, which can be found online, clocks in at around 13 minutes. I did a let's watch of this, but the subtitles were kind of bad for lack of a better word. Since then, I've been shown a version with much better subtitles, and I recommend watching that one instead. There's a link in the description below. But what defines this commercial is not what it did show, but rather what it selectively didn't. Instead of showing massive amounts of gameplay, new reveals, or any conventional attempt at your wallet, instead the Final Fantasy VII Remake commercial was shot entirely live action, with real actors and took place in the real world. This commercial didn't center around the content of the game, but how Final Fantasy VII has impacted the lives of real people. It follows a man who everywhere he goes, he hears people talking about Final Fantasy VII. Whether it's work or at home with his girlfriend, he hears everyone saying how great Final Fantasy VII was, though personally he was only familiar with Final Fantasy X. It's very fitting because there are so many people who've only grown up hearing about Final Fantasy VII. A lot of kids who are only old enough to play something like Kingdom Hearts when it came out have seen Final Fantasy VII's characters but never got to interact with them in their native environment. And that's probably my favorite thing about this whole commercial, just how much it imitates real fans. For example, these two salarymen discussing their concerns about the new action battle system in a very realistic way, and how they're not good at action games but they'll be looking forward to classic mode. It was also pretty funny just to see that level of self-awareness within Square's own commercial. Eventually, after seeing how impacted people were from playing Final Fantasy VII, this leads him to do a bit of investigative work on the remake. His girlfriend Kana reminisces about how she used to watch her brother play Final Fantasy VII growing up. This one hits home for many of us, as some of our first mature gaming experiences are through backseat gaming. I remember watching my brother play through The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time growing up. That is, before I got bold enough to take the game on myself. It's also an experience that millions of people have had with Final Fantasy VII. Then there's this scene in the bar, which you may have missed if you aren't familiar with the Japanese writing system katakana, but the name of this bar is Seventh Heaven, as a reference to Tifa's bar in the game. As a side note, Knights of the Round is mentioned during this commercial a lot, but there is no way that Knights of the Round is going to be in the first game. So I don't know why they chose to mention it so many times, but it's in there. But by far, my favorite character in this whole little skit is this guy. He is literally my self-insert and the absolute definition of a Final Fantasy VII fanatic, and it's just conveniently carrying around the game's Ultimania guidebook for no apparent reason. Although he ends up being a hero as he prevents Kana from spoiling Aerith's death in Final Fantasy VII. Ultimately, he is thoroughly convinced on just how groundbreaking Final Fantasy VII must have been, and he finally decides to give it a shot with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Even Kana receives a text from her brother about catching up and playing the new Final Fantasy VII Remake. But above all, what I loved about this commercial is that everyone can see themselves as one of these characters, no matter what kind of gamer you are. You are somebody in this commercial, whether it's the main character who's never played FF7, or someone who's just grown up watching a sibling play it, or maybe you talk to your coworkers about it and reminisce about the good old days, or maybe you're an absolute fanatic who walks around with the guidebook. God knows whatever reason. In either case, you can see yourself represented in this short story. Rather than just trying to sell us a product, Square Enix has sold us on our memories and experiences with Final Fantasy VII. In a way, they've tried to sell us our youth again, and honestly, I'm buying it. It would have been easy for them to spoil more of the game, show us more and more content. And yes, I say spoil, because even though it is a remake, seeing these things for the first time is pretty surprising and jaw-dropping. Not to mention there are so many brand new plot elements that legitimately you can spoil this for someone who's played the game a billion times. In either case, they will eventually show us more material leading up to the launch, and that's fine, we will eat it up when they do. At least, I definitely will. In either case, this beautiful approach shows that Square Enix is not just trying to remake Final Fantasy VII as a game, they're also trying to remake the emotion surrounding Final Fantasy VII and its impact on the world. This commercial is a fine example of that. So Ultima Weapons, what do you think of this commercial? Did it hit you like a ton of bricks like it did me? Or are you not ready to shill for Square Enix just yet? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if you value the content on my channel, be sure to check out the Patreon for the Night Sky Prince. Travis Lincoln is one of the people who are helping to continue to build this channel up even further, so that we can continue to make even more Final Fantasy and JRPG videos on the regular. It is greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to join him, there's a link in the description below. Shout out to Travis and the rest of the Ultima community.